Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Grumman Pilot's YouTube channel. And today we're going to talk about a specialty-made washer. It started out as an AN 960-416, but that's not what it's become. Stand by for the tale.
So we'd like to have you subscribe to our channel. Please hit the like button and notify so you can stay current with our latest content.
And this morning we're going to talk about a specially made washer. It's on my keyring. I'm going to remove it and we're going to discuss it. Stand by. So let's talk about this washer. Now, it's a specially made washer. Was it supposed to be made like this? And that's the story. So here's why you want to really encourage safety when you work around an aircraft, even your own aircraft. And we're going to be talking about when you're doing work on an engine, there are ways for metal to get into the engine. If you have a mag off, the vacuum pump off, metal can fall into the accessory case. It can also go into a cylinder, and that's the story of this washer. It started its life as an AN 960-416 washer. It had CAD plating. It was perfectly round, it was flat, it had a nice hole in the middle. As you see it now, it has a ridge on it. It's oval shaped and it's no longer flat. All the edges are kind of rounded. Now why is that? Well, you know, at Yankee Aviation we like to tell our customers that we don't make mistakes. And the reason for that is many years ago when we first bought airplanes, we were trying to do things the quick and cheap way, and we found out there's a reason why you don't fix things that way, because they don't stay fixed. Started out life as a standard AN washer. You know, you can buy a bag of them from Aircraft Spruce. Now this one goes on the intake tube. This goes on the intake bolt, which holds the flange, which holds the intake tube between the oil pan where the carburetor supplies fuel air for our cylinders and where it bolts to the cylinder near the intake valve. Well, if you drop one of these in the engine compartment, you better find it. I mean, you can't just assume it's on the bottom of the cowling. In this particular case, it fell right into the intake tube. We were putting the intake on a Tiger, and of course there's the AN4 bolts that go in that hold the intake flange around the carburetor inlet tube and the gasket and everything, and this washer is supposed to be there. But if you drop it, you can't assume that it hit the bottom of the cowling and it's lost somewhere down in the bottom or fell into the nose strut boot. You need to account for it, because in this particular case it fell into the intake tube. So when engine startup occurred, it was sucked right into the cylinder with the fuel and air mixture, and it beat itself around in the cylinder. It ended up shutting both spark plugs so the cylinder wouldn't fire. We noticed the engine wasn't running right after startup, shut it down, looked at that cylinder, pulled the spark plugs, put new spark plugs in there while those were off to be, if they could be, opened up again and reused as a spark plug. But anyway, did it again, and it happened just like it did the first time. Within about 5 seconds, the engine wasn't running on one cylinder. So guess what? We pull the cylinder, and here is this specially made washer that had a few trips around the cylinder, and it's been beat down, but that's why I carry it on my keyring, to remind me. And here is it being carried on my keyring. I shot a still of this before I started it, but it's on my keyring. And as Ken would say, there's a reason why it's here to remind me. There's also a reason why I have a beer bottle opener and my emergency shop key and my emergency garage mahal key. Those are the important things that are on my carbiner that I carry. But anyway, again, be careful with hardware around open ports on an engine. Don't ask me how I know that. That when you're working on an airplane, you've got to account for every piece of hardware. You got to take your time and do it right. It's not like a car that pulls over to the side of the road. The other story I have from a customer is that a piece of hardware was being done on the carb heat, and a little small stainless steel washer was dropped. You know, again, it was figured it was down in the bottom of the cowling somewhere on this two-seater, and so airplane was taken off, flown home. When he was checking his carburation about an hour into the flight before he gets to his home field to make sure carb heat worked, he pulled carb heat and the engine ran rough. and then it was only running on one cylinder. He had plenty of altitude to make his field. He began his descent and he landed at his home airport, and again, he had a dead cylinder. Inside the cylinder, sucked in through the hosing and the scat tubing into a carburetor, was a washer, a stainless steel washer from the carb heat that had found its way through the scat tubing and into the cylinder. It trashed the piston and it trashed the top of the cylinder because he was flying and couldn't shut the engine down. He had to use the engine to make the field. So those are our moral stories about dropping hardware. So this specially made hardware, you can learn a lesson from it. Education is something you pay for one way or another. You can pay a school or you can buy parts when you don't do it right. This is a cautionary tale for all of you out there in Grumman pilot land. Take care of your airplanes. So we hope you found all this useful and informative. Thanks for watching and have a good day flying your Grumman. And in addition, there's a little treat about 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm doing web work and other stuff. Here's my cat coming down, playing with a mouse and meowing and just having a good time with me in the wee hours of the night. So I thought I'd throw this into you as a little treat. Y'all please enjoy.